have time to make things pretty, including myself, so hopefully you can hear me. I thought I would try to get another movie list in. I'm following along, or attempting to follow along with Lisa Loves, as she does these lists from the book Film Listography, and there's something else to the title, but I don't remember it. So I will put a link in the description to her channel. Check that out. This time it's going to be most memorable death scenes, and I've kind of put this together quickly, so yeah, let's just get started. Also, there's probably going to be spoilers. I mean, in fact, I know there are. So I'm going to try to do the thing where you do the time codes and make chapters in the video so that you can skip if you don't want spoilers. So the first one I thought of was Superman from 1978. This is probably the one that most affected me as a kid, and that is Lois Lane's death scene, where she gets buried in the car in the earthquake. Thankfully, Superman's able to, fly backwards around the world or whatever and make things good again, or else I probably would have been traumatized for life. Another one that I thought of that I've watched over and over was Mesmerized from 1985. It's set in, I think, 1880s New Zealand, and Jodie Foster plays a former orphan who's been selected from the orphanage to marry John Lithgow's character, and she ends up hypnotizing him and slowly poisoning him with chloroform. At the end, he realizes what she's been doing, I guess, and he tries to strangle her as he's succumbing to the effects of the chloroform, I guess. And it's very melodramatic, and it almost looks like they're dancing. Next, I've got some falling deaths. So one I will mention, this is kind of an honorable mention, I guess. I've only seen this movie once, so it's not really one of my favorites, but the Alfred Hitchcock movie Saboteur from 1942, I think. It has a scene where a man falls to his death from the Statue of Liberty, and the way it was shot, it was like so that you could see his face as he's falling. So I always think about that scene whenever I see that in other movies. So Cliffhanger from 1993, the opening scene where the girl falls from the cable, and Sylvester Stallone is trying to go out and get her and keep her from falling, but ultimately her hand slips out of the glove. The terror on her face had such an effect on me the first time I saw the movie. I don't think the rest of the movie, ever comes close to being as good as that scene. But also, she really could have tried harder to reach his hand. The X-Files, I Want to Believe from 2008. Mulder and Agent Whitney, played by Amanda Peet, are chasing a suspect through this construction site that's like a high-rise building that's being constructed, or maybe it's a parking garage, I'm not sure. But they lose sight of the suspect, and they're on different floors, but they're able to stick their head out of a stairwell or something, and she's looking up at him and she's saying, I saw him, but I don't know where he went. And when she looks back on her own floor, he's right there in front of her and pushes her off, and she falls down several stories and lands on rebar. And the scene was just devastating because I really liked Amanda Peet, and I was so excited that she was in the movie. And then next, I've got The Lovely Bones from 2009, the scene at the end where Stanley Tucci's character finally gets what's coming to him, and he slips and falls over the edge of a cliff, and you just see him smacking stuff on the way down. Next, I've got Single White Female from 1992. Stiletto to the face. I don't think I need to say anything more than that. Anatomy from 2000. So the whole premise of this movie is It takes place in like a medical school, and there's this secret society, and they're like injecting people with this substance that kind of hardens, rubberizes, so that they're able to preserve the bodies and use them to make these really unique anatomy models, you know, that shows like the bones and tendons and muscles and whatnot. So the death that was most memorable to me is the character of Gretchen, because she ends up getting injected with this stuff and she's trying to escape, but she's slowly not being able to move. Like all her limbs and stuff are stopping working, and she's just like crawling to the exit. And I think he says if she can make it there, he'll let her go, but of course she can't. Next, I've got Serenity. And if you were a fan of the TV show Firefly and you've seen the movie, then I'm sure you know what I'm going to say. And that is Wash, the beloved pilot. He manages to like land the ship, and it seems like they're going to be safe. It's kind of like, I mean, because it's like a very intense scene where the ship is out of control, and then he manages to land it, and they come to a stop, and it's like, whew, everything's going to be okay. And then some piece of metal or whatever comes into the ship and skewers him, and yeah, it sucks. Like, shock value very high, but it sucks. Basic Instinct, 1992. Of course, there's the scene where Gus gets, you know, stabbed to death with the ice pick in the elevator. But the scene I actually thought of first was the one after that, where Michael Douglas's character goes running in, he finds Gus in the elevator, and then he runs into Beth. And of course he thinks she's the killer. She's been set up to be the killer, and she does seem kind of suspicious with her hand in her pocket and the look on her face, and he shoots her, and of course, you know, she was just reaching for her keys, and it's just like, oh. I don't know that I was actually rooting for her though. And lastly, I've got The Strangelove of Martha Ivers from 1946. Barbara Stanwyck plays the title character, and there's a scene at the end that's like it's like a double suicide. It's between her and Kirk Douglas's character, and he ends up pulling a gun on her. She pulls the gun to her and like puts her thumb on the trigger and makes him shoot her, and then he shoots himself. But it's like all sexy and stuff. So those are my most memorable death scenes. Don't know exactly how many I had there, but I'm going to put a link in the description to Lisa's channel. Be sure and check that out. And until next time, yeah, cheers. Thanks a lot.